Slow me down if you haven't already. The distributive property, you've seen it time and time again. It hasn't changed. We've talked about properties already, so let's recall what does distributive property means. It means you distribute using multiplication equally to everything inside that parenthesis. So A times B is AB, and A times C is AC, and it's positive, so I keep that AC positive. Down here, I have A times B is AB, and now I have minus A times C is AC. Okay, so that's the distributive property, distribute inside. All right, let's take a look at number 1. I have 7 times x, which is 7x, and then I'm multiplying 7 times a positive 4 is a positive 28. So this is where this integer rule of multiplication comes into play. So I can't combine unlike terms. That's as simplified as I can get. Look down here to number 4. I've got a negative 5. A negative 5 times n is negative 5m. Now I have a negative 5 times a negative 2. You've got a negative times a negative is a positive 10. Circle that one in case it was tricky. Look down here to number 7. You have a negative 4 times a negative w. A negative times a negative is a positive 4w. And then I distribute that negative 4 to a negative 10. And a negative 4 times a negative 10 is a positive 40. Okay, so be careful about those negatives. All right, jump down to number 13. 6a times b is 6ab. Remember, when they're variables, you just link them together. And then 6a times positive 2c is plus 12ac. Notice I'm not automatically putting a positive there because I got to deal with this. It could change the sign. So it's not an automatic write it down because it's there. You got to think it through. All right, let's look at these fractions. You're going to hear me talk all year about fractions and how important it is to be able to do this in your head. So I'm not going to do it for this video, but I do expect you in a few weeks, you will be able to do this in your head. So 1/4 times 8x is 2x, and 1/4 times negative 4 is negative 1. Okay? All right, here we get 1/6 times 3/5. I'm going to cross reduce, and I get 1/10 x. And then here, I'm going to get positive 3. Over here, I'm going to cross reduce. Negative 1/8 times 4/5 is a negative 1/10 x. And then I have a negative 1/8 times a negative 24, which is a positive, oh my goodness, why am I doing this? A positive 3. I don't know why I put positive 4. Okay, so that's the distributive. Now, when you have the distributive property in another term, you have to ask yourself, can I combine them? So let's look at number 19. I'm going to do the distributive property first. So I'm going to do 16x minus 24, and then bring that negative 6x down with it. Then ask yourself, can you combine them? I can. I've got 16x's and negative 6x's, and I get a 10x, and then you have that negative 24. Let's look at number 21. We have the 10. 10 is not being distributed here, right? The only thing that's being distributed is what is outside that parenthesis. And in this case, we have a negative. So a negative times a positive y is a negative y. And a negative times a negative 6 is a positive 6. Did you catch that? And then I bring down that negative y. When I combine my like terms, I have a negative y and a negative y, which is negative 2y. And then I have a 10 and a 6, which is positive 16. So that is my simplified expression. All right, let's jump down to number 23. All right, I'm going to cross reduce here. This is a 1 and a 3. This is a 2 and a 5. And when I multiply, I get 15 halves x. That's when I multiply those guys. And 9/4 times negative 4 is negative 9. And here I'm going to distribute out this negative to the 2. So I get negative 1/2 x. And a negative times a negative is a positive 2. Don't worry if you can't do this in your head right now. You will be able to do it in your head in a couple of weeks. And then when I combine 15 halves x and negative 1 half x, I get 14 halves x, which is 7x. And then I get a negative 9 and a positive 2, which is a negative 7. So this is my final answer. Do not fear the fraction. If you're fearing the fraction, come see me in tutoring. Before we get to this, if that freaked you out, come see me and I can get you a step ahead. But that's distributive and combining like terms.